Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, everybody. Hi. Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Animal Scope. Today is an Animal Scope. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Just going to give everybody a couple minutes to get in, or a couple seconds, a minute to get in. Hi, everybody. Hello. Hello from Stockton. Your first Periscope, Destine. That's awesome. Happy to see you, Pris. Well, hello there, Cowhugger. Animal Scope. Animal Scope. You loved my recent podcasts. Thank you. Which one? The one on film? The one on the history of the No Animals Were Harmed podcast? That one? Hi, everybody. Hello, hello, hello from Turlock. Oh, you're from Turlock. Awesome. Perfect timing. I was needing a Colleen session right now. Awesome. Well, welcome, everybody. I'm going to say hi to everybody. And awesome. Thank you. I'm Colleen Patrick-Goudreau from joyfulvegan.com, and I'm an educator and author dedicated to empowering people to live according to their own values of compassion and wellness. And you can find all of my work at joyfulvegan.com. Oh my gosh, you're so sweet. Thanks everybody. Thank you so much. You're feeling inspired today. That's awesome. I'm so glad. I actually just got a beautiful email. If you stick around, I'll read this email to you. It's just so beautiful, and it just validates my work so much. I'm so grateful for it, and I'm grateful to all of you for joining us. So I thought today we would talk about something that affects all of us every single day, people who want to be effective for animals just in their everyday lives, because there's so many ways that in our everyday lives we hurt animals passively and actively, and I want to talk today about things that we can do to actively help animals. It doesn't even have to take that much. So I know that many of you who listen to my podcast Food for Thought have heard me talk about when to intervene. It's called Critters on the Streets Part 1 and Critters on the Streets Part 2. And it talks about when to intervene, because there's lots of situations where we encounter a bird or a cat who's been hit by a car, or a dog running around on the street, or something that is unexpected and outside of what our plans were for that day or for that moment or for that hour. And it can be something that we make a reason to not stop and help, right? Because we're all busy and we're all going somewhere, and there's just lots of times that we don't have time to stop. And so one of the things I talk about in that is kind of my experiences, feeling like my perspective is this is our society and animals are part of our society. And if it's not my problem when there's someone who needs my help, then whose is it? My whole idea, which is not that unique, is that we're all part of this community, and I want to be able to help all members of the community. And so when there's an animal who needs my help, and it might just be a dog. So the other day, David and I, this was last weekend, David and I were going to get some lunch, and we hopped in the car, and before we knew it, there was a little dog running around the street. And another car had stopped in front of us and had tried to get the dog, and the dog just took off and ran down the street. I was like, okay, let's just stop. The woman couldn't get her because she just took off. And I said, all right, let's just give it a try. And we turned around and we started chasing this little dog, this little dog in this stupid little pink harness. And she wouldn't stop. And she just kept running away from us. And we just kept following her with the car, and I would get out. Now, here's one of the things that I do, and I've talked about this in the podcast. I keep dog treats in the trunk of my car, in our hatchback, and a dog leash, and blankets. And we don't have a dog, we have cats, and I have these dog treats specifically for this situation. So I get out of the car, I'm shaking the treats. She'll have none of it. She's a little tiny little thing. Luckily, we got close enough at one point that I was able to take a picture of her. And of course, as we're driving around, I'm putting on our listserv, our neighborhood listserv, a picture of this dog. Who is she? Does anybody know her? And she's running around. So all of this was happening kind of at the same time while we're trying to get her. And we were. I was in flip-flops. So we stopped the car finally, and I'm like running up the street and like running up this hill and trying to get this dog. And I'm like running in my flip-flops, which is a pretty inefficient way to run. And David finally stops the car and he gets out and he starts running. And I get in the car and I start following behind, and I'm kind of looking for which way they went. I found them, and I find him stopped, and he's clearly got the dog stopped. And as I approach, I see that she's growling at him, and David was, it was just not a good situation, and he was wary. But I was like, okay, maybe I can, entice her to pick her up, and she just took off again. So what are the takeaways? We never got her, but we did put her on the listserv right away. There's a couple different neighborhood listservs, and if you don't have a neighborhood listserv, get one for your immediate neighbors. Nextdoor is a very popular neighborhood site that a lot of people are using and signing their neighbors up for. That's a good question, Brittany. I'll answer that. So Nextdoor is a really good website, so that a lot of communities are joining Nextdoor. And then, of course, you can just do like some kind of Google or Yahoo listserv. And we have it for several different parts of our neighborhood. And so we know right away, listserv is just like a community list. It's just like a community list. So if you go to Nextdoor, which is a website that's dedicated to these kinds of lists where you can pick a particular neighborhood in a city, and everybody in that neighborhood joins, and you can invite people to join, then everybody's on this same list, so that when you send out an email, it goes to everybody on this list. And so we do that a lot when we see animals or just anything. I mean, suspicious activity in our neighborhood, whatever it is. And we can very quickly put up a picture of an animal. Yeah, Facebook groups, exactly. That's a great idea. Like a lost and found group on Facebook, you can do the same thing. So very quickly, neighbors were responding saying, I'll forward it to this group, I'll forward it to that group. I put the picture up right away. Like I said, number 2 is that we had the leashes in the car and the treats in the car, even though she's my only failed attempt. I failed, and I never fail. She was just so fast, wouldn't stop. Some motorcycle downstairs. So that's number 2. And number 3 is, what was number 3? There was something else. I mean, well, taking a picture perhaps, but in the end, I didn't get her, but in the end, her people did, because we put her on the listserv right away and people saw her picture right away. So it's just, we have this immediacy now because of the internet that we just never had before. So how helpful I would want the same thing for my animals who were lost, right? So people who find animals, we've had many animals that showed up on someone's doorstep. We put the picture out, and someone said, oh, I know who that is. That belongs to so-and-so. Let me call them right away. And it turned out they were on vacation, and there was a cat sitter, and they let them out by accident, and the cat just got disoriented, and she was diabetic, and she needed fluids, and she was not doing well, but we got her back to her people really quickly. So definitely do some kind of Facebook listserv, some kind of group, and check out Nextdoor. So what about young boys catching frogs from a creek? Well, what about it? You mean like taking them away from the creek? Yeah, I mean, I think they need to be taught that that's an ecosystem they need to respect, and the frogs need to stay there. And that could be a really good learning opportunity for the boys to bring them back to the creek and bring the frogs back. A while back, 2 people stole my 2 cavaliers and stuffed them in their car. Lucky your dogs jumped out. Oh my God, that's terrible. That's horrible. Yeah, that's awful. So I have many stories of animals I have stopped and helped, and lost dogs. People know that I talked about having a holding room in our old house, where it was a room that was like in the laundry room, and it was just kind of tile floors that I didn't care about, and I would be able to put food down there and keep them safe away from my own animals. Safe meaning everybody would be able to have their own area. I don't have that now. We have a little laundry room, but we have a little arch cut into it so the cats can go in and out to get to their litter box. So it would be any animal in there would be able to leave. But anyway, the point is, if we did find an animal, we would find a way to keep them here in the guest room or something like that. So I have taken animals back to to my home. And then you start the process of looking for their people and going to the shelter. And my point is, if it's not your problem, if it's not my problem, then whose is it? The whole point is that we're part of a community, and they're part of this community. They're members of our community, and we're not doing a very good job as it is taking care of, especially homeless dogs and cats, because we're overrun with, an overpopulation, as we know, because we're not neutering and spaying, and because et cetera. That's a whole other issue. So yeah, that's kind of that's the takeaway that I would invite you to ponder, is if it's not our problem, then whose is it? So stopping and just and taking care of what you can. And yeah, Brittany said I hit a cat and she ran off, and I eventually found the owner and she was able to find her. Is that all? I did hit a cat once many years ago. It was like 20 years ago. I hit a cat. It was the same situation. I was doing some childcare, and I was with two very bratty kids, and I hit this cat, and oh my God, I totally understand how upsetting it is. And she ran out right in front of the car. I couldn't I couldn't avoid hitting her, and I spent a long time looking for her, and the kids were so annoying because they were just so obnoxious. They didn't want to spend any more time looking for this cat, and I really wanted to, and I tried, but I couldn't find her. So yeah, I know that can be really hard. Did you already talk about seeing an injured animal struggling near death on a major road? No. And so on that same note, and this is kind of all related, I have the number of animal control, the animal services, in my phone. It's like the number one, it's like number 2 under the emergency. Okay, it's number 3. There's the non-emergency number I have for police, the emergency number for police, and then the animal services. So that way, if you find an animal who's been hit by a car, who is suffering, and I have taken animals to clinics because they were suffering. So I've done it with birds, I've done it with raccoons, I've done it with dogs, I've done it with cats. So absolutely. When I was working at Walmart, 2 young women were discussing the dog they hit. Hopefully they were talking about it in a compassionate way. I was horrified and asked how the dog was. Oh no, where's this going? She said, who cares about the dog? Yeah, unfortunately, Ruby, that's just unfortunate. Yeah, look at my car. Yeah, I mean, that happens a lot too. I hear when people hit deer in New Jersey, which is where I'm from, of course it's terrible for everybody because it is very traumatic, and you could get hurt, and of course, whatever, we think about our cars, but that's terrible. Your mom carried shovel in the car trunk to move dead animals off the road. Yeah, that's amazing that she carried the shovel. I have done that too. When I have found dead animals on the side of the road, whether they were wildlife or domesticated animals. In the case of domesticated animals, I was able to find the person and let them know that their cat had been hit by a car. That was probably the hardest call I ever had to make. It was very sad, and but I have moved dead animals off the road too, just so that they don't keep getting just hit and like run over. It's just such an undignified way to just continue to your body be left like that. So anyway, so that's kind of number 1, is all of which I said, which is, I think as a society we need to take responsibility for all of the members of it. It sucks when animals have no natural habitat, so they end up in the roads. I know, it's terrible. It's terrible. I don't know. I mean, these cars, I drive as little as possible, but sometimes it's unavoidable. I just paused one of your old podcasts to watch this. I'm obsessed. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Welcome if you're just joining us. For those who are new, would you please type in new and your name? I'd like to say hi to you if you've never joined us before. I'd love to know if this is something that was interesting to you, how you found the scope. Was it something you just saw on Twitter? Was it something that you saw just scanning Periscope? Hi, Cliff. Thanks for joining us, Cliff. Thanks. Cliff is new. Welcome to Cliff. New Brittany. Hi, Brittany. Welcome. And you were just listening to a podcast too, Ruby. That's awesome. Paw from London. Pow? Is it Pow from London? I've been watching your videos on YouTube, like all of them. Thank you. New from Melbourne, Australia. New Teresa. Or Teresa. You're a huge part of my new veganism. That's awesome, Destine. I'm so thrilled. Well, would you like me to get on to number 2, my second suggestion for helping animals? Number 2 of 5, and if anybody wants to write in what the numbers, you can please do. It'll be helpful for people to see. Hi, new from Sierra Foothills, Lindy. We love the Sierra Foothills. We spend a lot of time there. So number 1 was help animals in need. stop what you're doing and help animals in need. And by the way, for those who are just joining, you can share right now, if you think there are people who would be interested in this, you can share with your Twitter followers and you can share with your Periscope followers. If you don't have that many Periscope followers yet, you can also share on Facebook, Twitter. Thanks, Brittany, for welcoming all the newbies. And then, of course, those hearts that you see, you get those hearts by tapping on your screen. If you like what you're hearing, if you want to just increase kind of the energy and the ranking of this Periscope channel, you just tap your screen and you get all those wonderful hearts. So the hearts are so lovely, and thanks everybody for all your love. But yes, you can invite people by tapping on the numbers you see at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, where there's the little person and there's the number, and you'll see that it comes up and you can share. And you can also take a screenshot, but you have to warn me because you have to warn me so that there's not some crazy moment where I'm speaking. And when you take a screenshot, then you see a notice that says, would you like to share with your followers? Okay, number two, and a lot of people know this already about me. Thanks, Granola. Is putting water out for wildlife. Putting water out for wildlife and food when possible. So I'm sitting here right now watching the birds in our bird feeders and watching my cat watch the birds. And I promise you she's not going to get the birds, but that's why I keep glancing over as well. She's been obsessed for the last hour watching the birds. But the birds have their two bird feeders, or right, I didn't say the two birds. Yeah, the birds have their two bird feeders. I'm a little fried. I'm still on Chicago time, and we have also got squirrel feeders, so we feed the squirrels as well. Thank you. So that's in terms of food, and of course there's other ways. To help wildlife. That's a really good question, Allie. Allie asked about all the rules we hear about not feeding wildlife. I feed the squirrels. Actually, it's squirrel food I get from online or the pet store, and it's usually corn and peanuts. Oh my God, there's a bee around me. Sorry. There's usually corn and peanuts and some other things in there. Sometimes I'll just get unshelled peanuts, and they love them. And then I do keep them, filled up, and the squirrels love it. Does it hurt the ecosystem? Here's my feeling about that. We interfere in every single way in the lives of non-human animals, every way, and especially when it comes to wildlife. We put up fences, we ruin their homes, we take away their habitat, we put up traps, we put poison out. In every way, we hinder their lives. And so do I think I'm ruining some kind of natural ecosystem that's already in place? We're already interfered with their ecosystem, and if I can do something to help them, it's not hindering them, it's helping them. And we are part of this whole ecosystem that we're ruining and we are already interfering with. So I have no problem putting out food for the squirrels, and I have no problem putting out seed for the birds. And when the deer have been in trouble, I have put out food for the deer. And I don't feel that I'm doing any harm. No, I think it's a good question because we do hear a lot. I'm watching this little honeybee quite literally it's actually maybe a wasp on my phone, crawling on my phone and eyeing me. Yeah, and so actually, speaking of bees, the water I put out, oh my gosh, the water I put out, I have water all over our property, in every part of our property, and all different levels of water as well. And one of them, I have two fountains, moving fountains, moving water. The birds love moving water. It's really good for them. It's really fresh. It just stays fresher. Obviously, it's not sitting water, so you're not going to get mosquitoes, which is a problem as well. Really, dude. And the bees, maybe the water needs to be filled. And he's bugging me. Get it? He's bugging me. And so around the water features, there are tons of birds and there are tons of bees. That's another question, Alyssa. We will get there. So thanks for asking that. Alyssa asked about what about when there's flies in the house, etc. So water, and then so just keep in mind when you have bird baths out. So we have, like I said, fountains, but I also have bird baths, and I have little trays. The trays that come at the bottom of pots. When you get a ceramic pot and they give you the tray at the bottom so the water goes at the bottom, I often just take those and I use those as very shallow little water baths because birds don't want to swim. they don't swim. They just want to wade. You know, they just want to kind of wade. And so honestly, I was just, before I came here to Scope, I was in the kitchen and I saw there were 2 mourning doves on one of the trays that had just this much water. Now, I was out of town. Obviously, I had my sitters and my husband taking care of the water and all the animals because it's what I would normally do when I'm home. And the water was just, I hadn't had a chance since I had gotten home from the airport to fill up that particular tray. Everything else was okay. But I saw like 3 mourning doves like trying to get this little bit of water from this tray. And so I went out and I filled up the water. And so, you know, that's the kind of thing I see all the time. Yeah, and especially in the wintertime, I know it freezes. And of course, that's one of the things that's good about running water. And I think there's also outdoor water things that you can put out that have, that keep the water warm. So, so you can do things in the wintertime as well. I can't relate to that because it doesn't freeze here. But yeah, it is harder in the winter. And at least in the wintertime, they are getting water. I mean, because they are getting ice and they are getting water. But I must leave a Bible for my sitters. Luckily, I have the same sitters again and again, so they kind of know all of the routine. But I do stay. They definitely do get a list of things they need to do. I didn't see a question that just came in. But leaving water out and leaving food out, is that good? Does that make sense? Does that cover kind of that one? I don't want to dwell too much on it if you guys get the idea. I tried bird houses for the winter, but the holes are always too small. Well, there's so many different kinds of birds, Brittany. There's all different kinds of bird houses for different sized birds. I trudge out in the winter and I put fresh water out. That's fantastic. That's lovely, granola. Good. Okay, so that's number 2. That's pretty straightforward. And, you know, so many of us care about wildlife, but there's a lot of things that we can do to help them. There's a lot of things we can do to help them. And I feel that we already interfere. Why don't we intervene instead? So number 1, intervene when we see domesticated animals or anybody who needs help, who's been hit or been lost or on the side of the road or what have you. Number 2, intervene when it comes to wildlife and put water and food out for them when it's necessary. I shine a spotlight on my gummy feeders in the winter. In helping wild animals, are you concerned with rabies? Any precautions? Good question, Being Catherine. I'm not really concerned at all. I'm not interacting with them directly, and of course, I already take precautions for my own animals. And rabies is such an overwrought concern. I mean, it's, you know, obviously, I do believe in vaccines for our animals, but done in a really responsible way. If you have indoor cats, you know, I don't know that I feel like that rabies is a necessary vaccine to get, but if they're in any way exposed to being outdoors, then I do think that's helpful. But so many wild animals don't even carry rabies. I mean, like squirrels don't carry rabies. I used to have the squirrel sit on my lap and I fed them peanuts. Yeah, and you can get a rabies vaccine yourself. I mean, so I'm just, you know, I just feel like we're in a different time than we were when the rabies vaccine was, like when rabies was such a thing to fear. And it's great that we have these precautions we can take. But I don't think, no, rabies doesn't concern me in any way that would hinder me from helping. I'm afraid of stray dog attacks. Are you really? Are you really? No, that's not something I can relate to. But there's always things you can do. You know, my husband was scratched by a cat we had taken in, and he was bit, and he started getting the red line, which meant blood poisoning because we didn't catch it right away, and he could have died. I mean, he definitely could have died because she had so much infection in her mouth that gets spread very quickly if they bite you. So yeah, it was really scary, and it was a cat we loved, and we had taken